You know what's wild? Luke Skywalker literally watched his mentor vanish into thin air, was told to find an ancient Jedi master named Yoda, and then just didn't go. For an entire year. He fought battles, led missions, nearly died on Hoth, and the whole time, Yoda was just chilling on Dagobah, waiting for him. So what was going on? Why would our hero delay the one thing that could make him an actual Jedi? Hey everyone, today we're unraveling one of the most overlooked questions in the original trilogy. And trust me, when you understand what Luke was really going through during that year, the entire saga hits different. Let me take you back to that moment on Tatooine. Ben Kenobi has just sacrificed himself on the Death Star, and Luke has lost the closest thing to a father figure he's ever known. Before the Battle of Yavin, Obi-Wan told Luke about Yoda, this legendary Jedi Master who trained generations of knights. The old man even suggested Luke should seek him out. Then, as a Force ghost, Obi-Wan's final words echo through Luke's mind. You must go to the Dagobah system. There you will learn from Yoda, the Jedi Master who instructed me. Sounds pretty urgent, right? Except Luke doesn't go. Not immediately. Not for months. The Empire Strikes Back opens 3 years after A New Hope, but based on the expanded universe novels and the official timeline, Luke doesn't actually make it to Dagobah until about a year after Yavin. That's 12 months of battles, missions, and near-death experiences before he finally answers the call. Here's the first piece of the puzzle that a lot of fans miss. Luke wasn't just some guy in the rebellion. After destroying the Death Star, he became the guy. He was the hero of Yavin, the farm boy who made the impossible shot, and suddenly the entire Rebel Alliance was looking to him. According to the novels and comics that fill in this gap, Luke threw himself into missions with almost reckless abandon. He was leading squadrons, going on reconnaissance missions, helping establish new bases. The rebellion was in chaos after Yavin. Yes, they'd won a major victory, but the Empire was hunting them relentlessly. They needed every skilled pilot, every leader, every symbol of hope they could get. And Luke felt responsible. He'd lost Ben. He'd watched his aunt and uncle burn. He'd seen Alderaan destroyed. Walking away from the fight to train felt selfish, like abandoning people who desperately needed him. There's actually a great moment in one of the comic series where Leia basically tells Luke, "We need you here, now," and you can see the conflict tearing him apart. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is something Yoda himself confirms when Luke finally arrives. Luke wasn't mentally or emotionally prepared for what Yoda had to teach him. Think about where Luke's head was at after the Battle of Yavin. He'd just discovered the Force existed, learned he could tap into it, and made one successful shot. That's it. That was his entire Jedi training at that point. Close your eyes and trust your feelings for about 10 seconds. Now imagine that same Luke showing up on Dagobah immediately after. Yoda would have taken one look at him and seen a cocky kid, drunk on his own success, still riding the high of being a hero, completely unprepared for the discipline and humility that real Jedi training demands. The novels actually explore this pretty explicitly. Luke spent that year trying to teach himself. He practiced meditation, attempted to move objects with his mind, and mostly failed. He was stumbling around in the dark, and that frustration was necessary. When Yoda tests Luke in the cave on Dagobah, he's not just testing Luke's courage, he's testing whether Luke has matured enough to confront his own darkness. That year of struggle, of failure, of watching people die despite his best efforts, had beaten some of the arrogance out of him. Not all of it, obviously, but enough that Yoda could work with him. Here's something that fans on Reddit and various Star Wars forums have debated endlessly, and I think they're onto something. What if Luke's delay wasn't really a delay at all? What if the Force itself was guiding the timing? In Star Wars, the Force has a will. It guides events, brings people together at the right moments, and yes, sometimes keeps them apart until the time is right. Obi-Wan told Luke to go to Dagobah, but he didn't say go right now, this second. As a Force ghost, Obi-Wan would have understood that Luke's journey required certain experiences first. Think about everything Luke went through in that year. He learned what it meant to be a leader. He faced failure. He lost friends. He discovered that being a hero wasn't about one spectacular moment, but about showing up, day after day, even when you're exhausted and scared. These weren't distractions from his Jedi path, they were essential parts of it. The Jedi aren't supposed to be detached mystics sitting in temples. They're supposed to be guardians and peacekeepers, which means understanding the people they protect. So, what finally pushed Luke to go? If you watch The Empire Strikes Back carefully, there's a specific catalyst. On Hoth, Luke has his vision during the patrol. He sees Obi-Wan's Force ghost, who tells him to go to Dagobah. But here's the thing, that's not the first time Luke has thought about going. Based on the Canon materials, Luke had been wrestling with this decision for months. The Hoth vision wasn't information, it was permission. Luke had been feeling guilty about not going. Every time he closed his eyes, he probably heard Obi-Wan's voice telling him to seek out Yoda. But he also heard the voices of his squadron, his friends in the rebellion, people counting on him. The vision on Hoth, coming right after the base is discovered and everything falls apart, finally releases him from that obligation. The rebellion is scattering anyway. They don't need him for the evacuation. Finally, he can go. But there's more to it. Luke is also nearly killed by a Wampa, saved by Han, and experiences real vulnerability. He's reminded that he's not invincible, that his limited abilities aren't enough. That brush with death probably crystallized something in his mind. If he's going to survive this war, if he's going to actually help people instead of just getting himself killed, he needs real training. Not next month. Not after the next mission, now. The genius of this delay, whether intentional by the filmmakers or a happy accident of the timeline, is what it tells us about Luke as a character. He's not impulsive. Well, okay, he is impulsive. We see that throughout the trilogy. But he's not selfish. Despite having a golden ticket to become a Jedi, he doesn't abandon his responsibilities. He tries to balance both worlds, and that struggle defines him. Compare Luke to Anakin. Anakin was identified as a child, trained from a young age, and still fell to the dark side, partly because he couldn't reconcile his Jedi duties with his personal attachments. Luke walks into training already having formed deep bonds with his friends, already committed to a cause bigger than himself. Yoda is initially skeptical, telling Obi-Wan that Luke is too old, too reckless. But what Yoda doesn't fully appreciate at first is that Luke's attachments, his refusal to abandon his friends, even for his training, will ultimately be his strength, not his weakness. That year of waiting wasn't weakness or procrastination. It was Luke proving he understood something fundamental that the old Jedi Order missed. You can't separate yourself from the people you love and still be a true guardian. The Force isn't about isolation, it's about connection. So, why did Luke wait a year to return to Yoda? Because he had to. Not because of any single reason, but because of everything we've talked about. The rebellion needed him. He needed to grow up. The Force needed him to have certain experiences first. And maybe, just maybe, Luke needed to prove to himself that choosing the Jedi path wasn't running away from the fight. It was preparing himself to fight smarter, stronger, and with purpose. When Luke finally lands on Dagobah, he's not the cocky kid who destroyed the Death Star. He's a young man who's seen war, lost friends, faced his own limitations, and still chose to grow. That's the Luke Skywalker who could eventually redeem Darth Vader. That's the Luke who could restart the Jedi Order. And it all started with a year that seemed like a delay, but was actually the most important preparation of his life. What do you think? Did Luke wait too long? or was the timing exactly right? Let me know in the comments below, and may the Force